The Norwegian Method.
I'm Gustav 3 times world champion and Kona record holder.
I'm Kristian Moving, Olympic and 3-time world champion.
I'm Dr. David Lippman, a health and human performance specialist. And welcome to the Norwegian Method podcast.
The Norwegian Method. The Norwegian Method.
Welcome back to the Norwegian Method podcast. Joining me today to talk all about Kona are the Norwegians themselves. Kristian, Gustav, welcome.
Thank you.
How are we doing, boys? It's been a little while since Kona now. How are we feeling?
We're still alive, at least. But maybe not something to joke about. But obviously not the trip we wanted or the results we were looking for on race day. So I guess both quite disappointed and have had 2 or 3 weeks now to sort of, move on, and almost trying to forget the race.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we're doing a podcast to help you forget it then.
Sometimes you have to talk about the feelings, the emotions and the stress.
That's very grown up of you, Kristian.
It's very good. How are you feeling? Like physically, how are we both doing?
I'm feeling well rested and very motivated to get things going again. I have been going a little bit more in my season break. Kristian has not been doing anything basically. I saw you one day, but not training. We have not been up to much.
I've been spending my time packing out from my house. As you can see, trying to get organized, and I took over my new house yesterday. So I was just like, I had to postpone the podcast now by two hours, and then I managed to get 10 minutes late because I was out buying furniture for the new house. So keeping myself busy.
This is almost like a home podcast now instead of performance podcast.
Yes.
And that need to change.
I was just going to say.
Like this year has been too much homes and stuff.
Okay. So let's talk about that. So why the move, KB? Just upgrading or building a new pain cave? What's the story?
Yeah, just upgrading, getting a little bit further down, closer to downtown, and getting also the view a little bit tilted more towards northwest rather than just southwest.
Okay. And is that to be closer to Gustav or not?
No, it's to be close to the track. So now it's like 200 meters from the running track that we have in Bergen. So it's more like to get into that running vibes.
Very good. One more on how we're doing at the moment. I guess KB, I saw Camworth had a bit of a go at New York, but I also saw that you were in New York. I thought you were going to have a run, mate. Why no running in New York?
Well, because when I came back on Palani, I did drive and I was cracking up on Palani, and I was broken, done 11K and had 31 to go. Then I just, as I was forced to slow down because I was broken, then I also decided, okay, it's going to be like 3 or 4 weeks of off-season now and just completely rest and then building up for revenge for 2025. Just simply because I wasn't ready to run New York Marathon, and I wasn't planning to do it either, but I was there to have some easy days and then to join an event with On. So they were showing off the new robot that is creating the light spray shoe. So really cool to be there and talking about the downs from Kona.
Yeah, with your second favorite podcaster.
Yep, Rich Roll. So I had a visit at his studio as well, so that was cool to catch up with him. It's been 2 years since me and Gustav were coming straight from Kona, also 2 years ago, but then with completely different sort of emotions. Then Gustav came first, and I came third, and sort of was coming there and sort of on a high. And this time I was just like, I was a bit surprised that he still wanted me there.
Well, let's talk a little bit about it. How would you reflect on the day? Like, what would you guys say? Let's start with you, Gustav. What do you think of the day in general for you?
I didn't have high expectations going in. I had some dreams and hopes about a top 5, and I still think that could have been possible with the training I did, but just not. The last bit of preparation I think was good, but maybe some little mistakes. And on the day, I was just absolutely not where I wanted to be. It started with a bad swim. I know a lot of people got stung by the jellyfish, and I was one of them. And I can't like blame any jellyfish on my performance, but I kind of being at the start line and really like hyped up and ready to go, and then I'm like threading the water on a jellyfish, and I had to move over, and then I kind of I don't know, I was kind of out of it a little bit from being very, very hyped up to being more like almost concerned. And then I see the swim that the first group just goes away in the distance, and I have nothing to show for. I really want to go past and then follow, but I just have no power to do it. And coming out of the water, I'm feeling cooked, even though I'm like 4 minutes behind. I'm not sure exactly, but far behind. And on the bike, I try to do damage control and slow a bit down and riding easier than I had planned, but I still get completely drained of energy and cooked towards the end, and I'm losing every train that's passing me. Not that too much train in my part of the race, but some individuals that, like, honestly, it was like people tried to motivate me, and I just couldn't have it. I was talking with some athletes out there, and it was nice to see them pushing through and stay in the race, and they really wanted me to be there as well, but I was so cooked. I just feel like my core temperature was way too high, and no energy. And then coming into T2, I was just sitting there, like getting ice over me from the officials and the volunteers, and just trying to get back out there. But when you have to start walking in aid station 1 because you're so empty of energy, it's the challenge was too big for me. And what really broke me was the gap between aid stations from Palani up to Queen K. I don't know if the distance there it was longer, or if it just felt like it was longer, but I couldn't even see it in the distance. It was way too hard, and that was only 12K into the run. And I mean, if my ambition was to only finish and to do it no matter what, I guess I could change my mindset and overcome. But I was a bit too surprised of how hard the day came to be, and wasn't ready for the challenge, which is tough. Like, I mean, Ironman is supposed to be tough, and I do know that it's supposed to be tough, but I just haven't even thought about this idea that it's going to be tough from 500 meters into the swim, and then just keep on being tough for, if I finish 10 hours. So, Ironman got the better out of me.
What about you, KB? How was your day, mate? What do you think?
Started off good. Like, I woke up, felt rested and ready to go, and felt I had like an all-right swim. Like, I felt I used less energy on the swim this time around compared to 2 years ago, and felt like I was early in control, or I was early in the main pack on the bike, and was sort of just waiting for Magnus to fly by, and I was sort of mentally ready to push quite hard all the way up to Javi and sort of cover his attacks. But then I sort of lost the contact with him quite early around like Waikoloa, and Then after like 50 or 60k, I also got like an irritation in the throat that sort of forced me to puke up everything I had in the stomach.
Oh, we saw, mate. It was
Yeah.
right. It was one of the most impressive things from the day.
So I don't think it was like the high volume of like liquid or like the nutrition side of it, but it's more like an irritation in the throat. It was a little bit like the same I got the day before the race. Like as I was out swimming easy in the sea, I also got like some irritation in the throat and was sort of puking up as well. So it wasn't just on the bike with nutrition, but it was more like, yeah, something more than that. And so I then had to go for plan B, which were, or like plan A was to ride quite strong and come off the bike with Magnus or Sam, and then be able to defend myself on the run. And plan B was then to go back again into the main pack and do a little bit like Patrick was doing, but like saving the energy in the pack and being like clever the way I was riding in the rolling terrain. But then the last 40 or 50 Ks on the bike on Queen K, I felt like quite cooked again in the crosswind. So, but again, I felt cooked 2 years ago as well. And the power this time around was about like 10, 15 watts lower compared to what we did 2 years ago. So I don't think the intensity on the bike was too high either. So I do wonder if it was the preparation or if it was just like the consequences of losing liquid or what it was. But then starting the run, I tried to go out at like a decent pace to catch Sam or like at least run for a podium. But then quite early on Queen K, I just had nothing left. Like Patrick was catching me quite easily. Like he was 20 seconds down in T2 and he caught me quite easily and just flew by, and I tried to stay with him, but it was just nothing there. And from like maybe K3 to K6, I was mentally trying to race for a third place then. I assumed that Sam was up front, Patrick was the fastest man on course, and I was then trying to pick the apples I could. But then after 7K, I just went backwards from there, and it was a long last 35K to finish it off.
Yeah. And what was, I mean, I guess people will be interested in this. Was it just about respecting the race? Is that why you wanted to finish? Because it would have been very easy for you to pull the pin at some point.
Yeah, I think mentally it's quite easy for, like, if you're making that, it's almost like a bad habit. For every time you do, or like quitting out from a race, you make it a little bit easier for yourself as well to quit the next race. And also especially as it were the last race of the season, like I think it's better to get that emotional damage by being out there in the course and just feeling the humbling experience out on the course and getting that motivation from that last hour and build on or utilizing that for next year instead of just pulling the pin. And also, like for me to suffer out there in the course, it makes me run an 8:30 Ironman, you know, and then you have guys out there fighting for 16, 17 hours. So I was also trying to think a bit of that, like, yeah, I may be having a rough day out there, but it's still like just 8.5 hours compared to the guys who's out there for close to 17 hours or so.
The reason Kristian and Gustav use Plasmate is simply due to the proven benefits it adds to their programs. Plasmate is a liquid adaptogen, not a gel supplement. Here's how it works that sets it apart. Plasmate taken before any training session or race switches on natural production of stabilized nitric oxide that prepares your body for optimal performance for a minute or 5 hours. During training sessions or races, your body then uses your gel energy supplement and hydration intake more efficiently. When taken after, it switches on natural anti-inflammatory actions and prevents lactic acid buildup, which means you recover faster. Head to the website to try Plasmade for yourself. Plasmade, it gets you there.
We mentioned Rich Roll before. We mentioned your podcast with him a couple of years ago, both of you. One of the things, and I don't know how well you remember that, I remember the podcast relatively well because I listened to it again a little while ago. One of the things he discussed with you was about this no one wins in their first time and respecting the island and this sort of aura of the big island. And you weren't dismissive of it at all, but I guess, how are you reflecting on that sort of thing now that you've had a tough day on the island and a good day on the island? What are you thinking about Kona? How do you think about the aura, the island, all those things?
I think no one wins the second time.
I think everything is easy when it's easy, then you don't have to reflect on those things too much because it comes to you and you don't have to work for it too much. So maybe it would have been almost better to not get it as easy as I did the first time around. But I definitely felt more of the hard spirits of the island this time around. Like, we still had a lot of fun going into the race and still enjoyed it, but I must say that I'm more impressed by my fellow competitors this year. Like, to see some of the athletes be so consistent on performing on the island, and especially Patrick coming back now 6 years or so after his last victory. I mean, someone like him just knows the island, and it's very motivating for me also to get to know that island better. I think I'm not sure if I was lucky with the conditions last time around, or if the dynamic fitted me better, or if I just that much better prepared. But going into this race, I did feel like, of course, my running was a lot worse. My longest run this year was like 20 something K. So of course I didn't have the same preparation, but I didn't feel that it should be that big of a difference. So it's hard to say if it was the island spirits or just a lot of things.
What about you, KB? Any thoughts on the island spirits, the juju, anything like that?
No.
No? Okay.
I think it's the training and the decisions in the race, and we have to take the blame ourselves.
Fair enough. I like that. So on that, is there anything you'd change? If you could go back with the benefit of hindsight, what would you change?
Maybe if I can change the decision taking during the race, maybe it would have been better to be a little bit more conservative on the bike and racing like Patrick did. And the build up on the training maybe should have been a little bit closer with my elbows, like a little bit shorter reach and a little bit higher, maybe like a centimeter or two both ways. And
you're talking about bike position there?
Yeah, and maybe Flagstaff was a bit too much flat riding in terms of it's a bit much the same pedal like riding in terms of utilizing the quads, and maybe it would be nice to have changed it a little bit more with a rolling terrain, a little bit more hills on the bike, and maybe we should have been 1 week earlier on the island. Like, now we came there 2 weeks out, or like 15 days before the race rather than 21 days, and that was maybe also a bit short, even though I felt quite good heat-wise the first week, 10 days, but maybe it would be nice to be there 1 more week to sort of get a little bit more familiar to it.
Anything from you, Gustav, on anything you change?
For my race, I don't think I could have done too much different, actually. I felt like of course, you can go even more conservatively and even easier on the bike, of course, but in the end, it's also a race, and so it's hard to say if I should have done something differently and if that would make a huge difference on the end result. I don't think so, because it was so far off. So, and for the training, I mean, I also went on the limit of what my running could take me with my Achilles, I think. I don't know how much more running I could have done and still be surviving the training. So that is not too much difference. I think it was not beneficial for me to have short course yards in Flagstaff for that long. The technique comes easier, and I think it's good to have a change. But only having yards is maybe a bit too easy in the swim, and it's good to have a bit of a change. And as Kristian mentioned as well, the bike in Flagstaff, I don't think it's ideal when it's only the same position again and again and again. I mean, it's good for Ironman to have the specific training, but you need some kind of change in the pedal stroke. So maybe if we brought a gravel bike or something to do a little bit more explosive in the pedal phase could be a smart decision. But I think for the next time around, I don't think it will be Flagstaff, especially not in Nice. That would be very strange.
That was my next question. Is it going to be, I assume you're not going to go to Flagstaff for Nice then, probably more something like Font Romeu or something like
that
this?
would be more sensible. We might try St. Moritz also this summer, and if it's even better there, maybe we go there before Nice.
Actually, when you are switching between jogging and walking on Queen K back from NG Lab, then you have enough time to actually get an invitation from one of your competitors to St. Moritz.
So you're planning the next race already within your race?
Yeah. The athletes who's outside of top 25, they are like starting, like they're all like they're looking at each other and like, okay, we got to do something. Maybe we should work together. So,
who did you get your invitation from?
Daniel
Beckegor is living in St. Moritz, so we both had a rough year. So
very good.
World Championship. So yeah,
very good.
Yeah. So St. Moritz, we have an invitation there. So we might go. We haven't fully decided yet, but yeah, I think it's ourselves to blame.
Maybe a Nice camp as well early on in the season. Not too specific on Ironman, but more like base building in January, February, and maybe another time as well.
Okay. And so talking about next year, obviously you've been very explicit about this, Gustav, is that Nice is your main focus. That's what you'll be gearing your year towards. I'm sure that you'll qualify at another race some way to validate and sort of get your way there. Any other thoughts on what racing might look like for you two next year? And I mean, and the next question is, and does it include Norseman?
Oceanside, Texas, Frankfurt, Nice, and World Champ. Maybe that's 5.
Yep. So your Ironman Pro Series next year for you then?
Yeah, and maybe some other races, but at least 3 full distance. If we are forced, or if there is 4 full distance that's required for the Ironman Pro Series, I think they're changing it towards 3.
Okay, so you'll do 3 full distance and then some half distances to sort of try and clean that one up. And what about you, Gustav? I assume
I'm leaning the same way.
Okay, and are you guys going to do the same races next year or different ones?
It wouldn't make any sense to do different ones. Like if you're training the same training camps, it would be very hard to make the Pro Series fit any other way. So,
yep.
And even though if we are fit enough to both be fighting for the win, like we do enjoy turning up to the same races and instead of like spreading around and making it easier for ourselves. Like even though if both of us are in shape, we also enjoy turning up to the same race.
Yeah, and in the Pro Series, it's like every second counts, you know, it's not every place counts. So if I'm just right in front of him, it's not that much point loss either.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. I do enjoy that with you two about your willingness and keenness to race the best. And I think that makes the Pro Series something that's very attractive as well, of course, especially if you want to go long distance. Any thoughts on any PTO stuff next year or not sure?
Yeah, I don't think I haven't heard anything about a contract. So I guess it's not going to be an exciting one anyway. So yeah, in that case, it will be wildcards for some races, but with 3 full distance Ironman, it's not going to be that easy to fit it into schedule. But the competitiveness there, it's very high to get some more speed in as well. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't say no for a wildcard either.
Yeah, it's as Gustav said. I think if they're having like 8 or 10 races, I think they will push you to race basically 8 or 10 of those races next year.
Yeah.
So if you are on contract, I think it will be difficult to do a proper build up for Nice.
Yeah, no, I agree. And what about Norseman? Talk me through any thoughts of Norseman next year? I know it's on both of your bucket lists, or is it too much for next year?
Do you want to do it?
No, I don't, but I know you two do. You've told
but
me
this
before
is for the
you do.
future.
If you want like get around like to get into the start list, maybe.
You haven't seen me swim, mate. You have not seen me swim. I think if you two pulled me in the water, I wouldn't be able to swim properly.
But I know some cruise ships as well, and if the cruise ships come in there, they pull up the cold water from within, and then the swim might get shortened or cancelled. So we can pull some strings to make you get through it.
I like that. I appreciate it.
If you first travel to Eidfjord, you don't want to do it as a duathlon. It's something about the hardness of like jumping into that freezing cold water, and but yeah, definitely in the future. Like we've both been racing in Eidfjord before, like the mini triathlon. Like
Yep.
it's 10% of the whole distance, and that was like one of our highlights in the summer when we were younger. So for sure, one time, but it's tricky to combine it with the Ironman Pro Series, and it's in.
There's no Ironman Pro Series points in this one.
It's maybe you should pull some strings and see if they'll give you some points for that.
That would be sick.
We'll have to talk to Scott and yeah.
The research is clear. Heat training has been proven to result in a 4 to 6% increase in VO2 max in sub-elite athletes, as well as a boost in hemoglobin mass, blood plasma, lactate threshold, and power output. That's why Kristian Moving, Gustav Eden, and many of the world's top athletes have been using core to safely and effectively facilitate heat training and induce physiological heat adaptations to prepare for races like Kona. Thanks to core, the Norwegians are making their secret heat training plan available for the first time ever, along with a 20% off a core body temperature sensor with code Norwegian20. Developed by one of the world's leading sports scientists and coaches, Olav Alexander Boo, the Norwegian heat training method will give you the guidance necessary to get ahead of the competition this indoor training season. Go to thenorwegianheattrainingmethod.com to get access to the guide and 20% off a core body temperature monitor now through December 2nd with code Norwegian20. That's Norwegian, all spelled out, and the number 20.
Yeah, okay. Alrighty, and on to the next thing. Obviously, big news over the last little while has been Olav signing with Uno X. I think everyone wants to know, are you guys going to be spending some time cycling with those guys? Or are you guys too cool for that? They're too fast for you? What's the story?
We might be in Sierra Nevada at the same time, so then it would be cool to learn some skills from them.
Yep.
Yeah, we have been riding with cyclists before, but if it lines up, cyclists are usually quite strict on a training schedule. Like they're riding at strange times for triathletes, so they go at 10, which never fits for us. But it would be cool to have some running with those guys.
Yeah.
In Sierra Nevada.
Yeah, for sure. And what do you guys think about this? Are you excited about what Olav gets to go do? Gets to go spend some time being stimulated, doing something new and different?
Yeah, it would be pretty cool to see what he can do with like a larger group, and yeah, it's probably like 20 athletes times 2.
Yep.
Or so, and to see how we can bring in what he has learned over the last decade in triathlon and bring it into one single sport and see if we can actually get the same improvement that we have had in our performance.
Yeah, and Tour de France is actually quite big in Norway, I would say, for television. So if they are able to perform there, that would be very cool. I know they have some long-term plans for Tour de France, as Tour de France is the thing in cycling. So it would be cool to have a yellow jersey in the Tour de France, but it's not going to come this or next year. I guess it will be some years until that can be realized.
Hopefully we can get like a ticket to be in the car or something to watch.
I was going to ask about that. Is that something you want to do? Be at the Champs-Élysées next year for the finish or something? And so I guess, how much longer with the off season, boys? When do you guys get cracking again? And are you going to be training out of Bergen or straight into camp?
In Bergen, but I'm leaving this house from 1st of December. So from 1st of December, I'm also back into training. Then I also have to organize my life to be 100% back. So yeah, it's like slack for another week or so, 10 days, 2 weeks, and then it's back 100% for me. Well, the other guy here, he's been training.
I've been enjoying some long running. Today I had a hard swim. Just doing things that I enjoy doing. I go a bit depressed, kinda, if I'm not training anything. So I'm mostly doing it to stay happy and doing good stuff. I had a really, really nice run 2 days ago. It was 21K or something trail run. It was a bit slippery, but I managed to come down in one piece.
Very good. Very good. And when's first training camp? And are you Sierra Nevada, or is it it's still too snowy up there, isn't it?
Nice, 15th of January.
Oh, wow.
As long as the rumors about moving the World Championship back to Kona already next year, as long as they are false, we will go to Nice.
Is it rumors?
Yeah, there is like a competitive podcast spreading around rumors.
That it's not going to be Nice next year.
Yeah, the triathlon hour, he's saying it's going to be in Kona, but I'm not sure. He's like posting screenshots and stuff, and then he's posting that some people say that the screenshots are fake, and then
Okay, so we are podcast commenting other podcasts commenting rumors.
yes.
So we are not your first-hand source of rumors.
Well, I was gonna say, I heard from him a little while ago that you were going to be cycling for J. Lula this year. So
Just rumors.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't commenting rumors from other podcasts.
yeah, no, I was just checking about what you thought about that.
Do you have any other rumors?
Is there another rumor?
I don't know. I'm asking. Do you have any, David?
No, I got nothing.
Okay.
I'm out of the circle with triathlon. How do you guys? I mean, there's lots of. It's actually a really good point. We obviously saw what Patrick said at the pre-press conference about bringing the women back. How do you guys, now that you've sort of seen it evolve for a couple of years, where do you guys land on it? I know we've talked about this before, but I'm interested if your views changed on it all, of having a split World Championships. Do you want to try and keep it at Kona? How do you want to think about it? How do you think about it?
I think it should be together, joint, male, female, same time, same weekend, maybe not the same day. And yeah, maybe every other year at Hawaii or Kona. That would be the solution I think I'm most excited about. Then you obviously have the legend of the island still, but also you see more interesting dynamics out there, especially like different courses like Nice. If it's just going to be the same Ask race by doing it in Texas or something, I don't think it's that exciting. But if you bring in some X factors to the every second year, I think that would be a very fun solution, especially for the pros. But if you think about Ironman as an industry and as for the age groupers, I guess most people would like it to only stay in Hawaii.
Yep, that makes sense. And yeah, how would you split the age groupers up? I mean, you don't really have a solution there, so it's difficult. Any thoughts from you, KB?
I think in terms of the total numbers of athletes going to Hawaii, I think like to having to have 2,500 or something is enough. Like you just make it a little bit like more difficult for each age group in terms of qualification, but I think, like, of course you want to have 2 different days for the men and women, especially because you want to have the female winner to be the one who is crossing the finish line first, and to sort of, I think that race dynamic isn't the same when you're having it sort of mixed, and maybe even age groupers catching up on the girls, and the
Maybe Daniela would have caught you.
She would actually in Kona.
Yeah.
So like you don't want to, as a male pro athlete, so you don't want to be caught by someone,
by anyone.
Yeah.
by anyone. So I totally understand, or I think it would be great to have 2 days, but when that's not an option on Kona, it seems like the mood is still people want Hawaii.
Yeah, I think splitting of it's been interesting to watch over a couple of years, and looking at the challenges for people trying to support from a brand standpoint as well, like the marketing and the sort of sponsorship and activations on ground certainly didn't feel as big this year in Nice as it did in Kona. And maybe that's just my little echo chamber, but it certainly felt like it was not quite equal.
Nice last year felt pretty good, I would say.
I agree.
So maybe just the male are more in marketing mood. They buy more stuff in triathlon.
Well, or the brands want to be there to watch the race or something. So this is why I think bringing them back together makes some sense, or would be nice in many respects in that regard as well. But the flip side of that is it's really nice to see the guys getting to Nice this year to commentate on the women's race and having good insights, and vice versa, the women being at your race and giving us insights. So one thing I did want to ask about, KB, there was a moment on the bike when I was watching when just as Magnus came past and you pulled out, and there was just chaos around you. There were people everywhere. Everyone was trying to pass. The race rangers were flying. It looked like a rave. The lights were all blinking. Do we have a solution there? What are we thinking? Because that looked like chaos to me.
Just there was one of the riders who had a race ranger who was blinking red all the time. No matter if you were 20 or 30 or 40 meters behind. I think I know what sort of situation you were talking about, and I was like, I was sort of having to go out and to make a move, and then the thing is you have to go by everyone,
Yep.
And I can't remember how many people were in front, but you're sort of looking into getting into a group if there is like enough space in between two riders, so you don't have to go all the way past. If it's like 15 or 20 meters behind. So I think it was more like I was following a guy who went by, and it was suddenly like I was behind a guy who was going by again.
Yeah.
And I just tried to. So I was looking. I saw the referee was also just next to me, so I was just telling him, okay, I'm just going to keep going, and So he also saw that I was making a constant move.
Yeah, it looked really chaotic to me, because as Magnus come past, you pulled out, but someone else pulled out, and then there's now a line of people trying to pass. And I looked at it and thought, I don't have a solution here. It just looked to me messy for what they're trying to get you guys to do. It looked very messy to me. We talked in the pre-Kona episodes, and I caught you guys in Bergen. And we said that we thought the bike, because of Race Ranger, was going to be quite surgy, right? People are going to have to put down big powers. How do you think we fared there? Was it a fair? I mean, it was really you guys, not me. I don't really have insight here. But what do you guys think? Did it play out as you thought?
I would say yes. Like it makes it maybe, but again, like because of the rolling terrain, like you just have to be more like clear with like braking if you're getting into the draft zone, and I guess also it's easier for the referees to hand out penalties if they see it blinking red and you're not making a move.
What about you, Gustav? I know you weren't sort of up the front, and you probably weren't riding quite as hard, but what?
He didn't see any blinking red.
I had some people around me, and it was just like I thought. It's quite easy to be at the draft legal limit, and at the limit is quite a big effect of the of drafting, and it's really hard when you come over the hilltop and people accelerating, and then it's suddenly you have to be very aware when it's slowing down again. So it's definitely more of a change in pace than a normal Ironman without a race ranger, I would say.
Yeah.
And that's maybe an additional reason to not only do the steady state training as we did in Flagstaff, but more of surging, because Kona, especially the last bit towards Hawi, it is pretty undulating, and it's difficult to stay within the limits all the time. So then you either have to bite the bullet and then say, okay, I'm gonna be further behind and not have too much effect of the draft zone. So it's definitely highly trainable to be good in the pack.
Yeah. And what does that mean for Nice for you guys? It's obviously a much hillier course. There's a long descent, of course, that we saw make a huge difference in the women's races here. What is that, given that you're probably going to have Race Ranger and you're going to ride Nice next year? What are your thoughts around, I guess, the next 12 months of cycling for you?
It means that we need to get our hands on some Race Ranger system so we can put on the bike and practice in training.
I like that.
Because or we need to race more. But I think it's not possible to buy them for now. But it would be really nice to be able to practice with those in training. But maybe doing more sessions.
Yeah, more just like training in the course. That course is pretty like surgery anyway. So I think it's more natural to train for that course anyway. And you wouldn't really need it in a downhill, I think. That would be maybe a bit too crazy, because 12 meters in a downhill, it's super tight. So, I don't think it will play that big of a role in Nice. But I mean, it is like flat sections as well, so maybe it is.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what happens next year on the Nice course. We saw this year, the women's race blow apart on the bike. So, I'm sure we'll see similar, because the run in Nice is not so exciting. So we'll see all the fireworks on the bike, I think. All right, boys. Well, I think really appreciate your time. It is getting on where you guys are. It's getting late at night. You guys are, yes, maybe in off season, but you still value your sleep. So really appreciate your time, gents, and appreciate you both. And look, happy training. Enjoy the rest of your move, KB and Gustav.
Thank you.
Make sure that when you gets back to training, you put him to the sword a little bit. Don't let him get off with too much free ride, given how hard you were training.
Let's make Norwegian hype train great again.
Yeah, let's make it great again.
I think you're both going to have to switch your caps if that's the case.
Yep.
The motto for me going into Nice is take charge in your own life. Don't just stay on the boat. You have to steer the boat. So you have to be a skipper.
We live, we laugh, we learn. So now we learned from 24.
Yeah.
We've had a laugh about it, and we also lived.
Well, I appreciate you guys spending some time with me, having some laughs about Kona, about a tough day. And we'll talk to you all next time on the Norwegian Method podcast. Please do share this with a friend. Of course, if you're not subscribed yet, do so. And if you haven't rated the podcast, we'd appreciate that as well. So thank you very much, gents, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.
The Norwegian Method.